Hey, it's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to this program we call Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. Insiders know, oh, that is such an inside joke. No, we consider all things. This is the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs. Whether you're catching it live, we're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific live. 2 p.m. Pacific, because that's where I am, live. But, the thing you can also catch it recorded wherever you are on amok.com, on Twitter at Emil Amok. Oh, we got something to say about Twitter. Washington Post has a whistleblower. We got something to say about Twitter today. You can also see this on Meta, aka FB, facebook.com/EmilGuillermo.media. That's where you find us. So welcome to the program. We're on slightly before 2 o'clock, meaning you're getting something extra. Always thinking about you. Always. I mean, this is an unusual talk show. We talk about the news that kind of slips by, that you don't get, that you may not see the analysis. If you're one of those 3-minute watcher viewers on our stats, you might be encouraged to stay. We're going to talk about that Twitter thing, the whistleblower. We're going to talk about Trump. He's up to 700 documents now. Sources are telling the New York Times, oh, it's not 300, it's 700. It reminds me of when I was a reporter and I asked a suspected murderer while they were taking him around from police department to the police department in Dallas, trying to match the MOs, because that's what the police do. They match the MOs and try to get as many crimes on a suspect. I got this guy in the elevator, got my camera on, and I asked him, are they right to try to pin 6 murders on you? And he said, I didn't do 6. I might have done 4. Thank you very much. He did. His lawyer wasn't with him. I should have said, don't you want a lawyer before you talk to a reporter? Oh, no. I only did 4. I didn't do 6. Confession held up. What do you know? So we got the goods on Trump, or at least people are saying to the New York Times, it's 700 documents now. Got some other things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, I got this thing about Liz Cheney. I know I apologize for calling her frumpy. That was not like a negative thing. I wasn't trying to dump on appearance. It wasn't lookism. Like I said in my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, or on usa.inquirer.net, I said, hey, I like all my Republicans frumpy, no matter what gender. I was showing some equanimity there. But new poll out about Liz Cheney's her upcoming, it is an upcoming, her evangelical dump Trump move as she considers running for president. The poll suggests that it may not be a good idea, that it may be counterproductive. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the Pelosi DUI. You got to talk about that. It's not necessarily kid gloves. Nancy Pelosi's husband, according to reports, is going to spend 5 days in jail for DUI at 82. So, going to talk about that. Going to talk about Election Day. Oh, this is Election Day, and that's why we exercise our free speech, to get out an Asian American voice, because a subtitle of the show is WDAAT. What does an Asian American think? They never ask. This is what an Asian American thinks. I'll tell you. I'm an Asian American Filipino. I'll tell you what we think. Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live. Emil Amok's Takeout. Thank you for joining us. The Lanyap section is really just it's not really a warm-up, but I tell you what I'm going to talk about. And now let us tell you what I'm going to talk about. This is through the Filipino grapevine. I saw it reported on USA .inquirer.net, which is the website of the Philippine Inquirer, but it is a story from the Virginia Pilot. A federal judge sentenced that Filipino man, Kenny Brian Lazo, Norfolk resident, 45 days in jail last week after he pleaded guilty to one charge related to his role in the January 6 riots at the U.S. Capitol. You know, it was a very diverse crowd out there in Washington, and I've done a number of columns on Kenny Brian Lazo, who held up that walis tambo, that's what they call it, it's a Filipino broom. You say, what's that guy doing with that? It looks like, is he waving a palm tree? What's he doing? It looks like a dried out palm tree. No, it's a walis tambo, also known as a Philippine broom. He was going to sweep out the Congress, right? This is according to the Virginia Pilot's report. Lazo spent 19 minutes in the Capitol, according to the statement of offense filed in federal court. He entered the Capitol at 2:34 p.m. that day, about 14 minutes after the members of the House and Senate, including Vice President Mike Pence, were evacuated from the Senate chambers. So he went there, and the people he was really trying to get to were already gone. So maybe that's why he only got 45 days, because he was just an insurrectionist, semi-hooligan, but the people were already evacuated. So he was really just an out-of-control person just for having entered the Capitol. I mean, he entered 14 minutes after Pence and the House and they were evacuated. So he was one of the first riders to enter from the Upper West Terrace doors, which had been breached. The memo also said Lazo did not personally engage in violence or property destruction, but he told someone in social media that he was bringing a baton and pepper spray, which, you know, everything you say can be used against you, right? He entered the Upper West Terrace doors, which had been breached about 1 minute prior to him going inside. So he was among the first, but not the tip of the spear, you might say. And he had on a cape, had an American flag as a cape. He was wearing a black helmet, orange goggles, and he joined in chants of "Our House" as he walked through the building. So he was there. I mean, this is the thing about these kind of crimes. They got the goods on you. You can't plead innocent. I guess you could plead nolo contendere, which means you don't want to enter a plea. But they found him guilty. And this is just the sad story of a Filipino American in Norfolk sentenced to 45 days in jail. It was a plea bargain arrangement. Lazo said he believed in the false narrative that the 2020 election was stolen from former President Donald Trump. On Facebook, once again, things you say on Facebook will be used against you. Quote, "They still stole it even though they're cheating," Lazo said. This is just indicative of the kind of hold that Donald Trump has on the base of the Republican Party. I don't want to say the rank and file. The people, above, in the higher echelons of the Republican Party just want to win. They see Trump as the best way to win. But the thing about guys like Lazo is they're buying it 100%. This is the cult of personality that people like Liz Cheney keeps talking about. This is Trump's hold on the Republicans, and it's why Trump remains a threat to our democracy. Now, Lazo had a defense attorney, and he argued that Lazo was manipulated by Trump to believe numerous falsehoods, including that Trump had won the election and Pence had the power to overturn the results. A.J. Kramer, Lazo's federal public defender, said, Mr. Lazo believed every word. And I think you've got to really understand what that means. It means that there are people in their own little silos who don't go into other silos and get other bits of information, who don't get talked out of extreme positions. They look at Donald Trump. They went there, right? They went to the ellipse because Donald Trump said, come to Washington. It's going to be a wild thing. And, let's go to the Capitol. I'll follow you. And then Donald Trump goes home to watch it on TV. And there goes the people to the Capitol. Where's Trump? Good question. But they believed him. They were there. And now look, here's an innocent victim. I mean, he's not so innocent, but he's a victim of Trump. Were he only afforded other sources of news to say, hey, look, Trump's lying. The election wasn't stolen, but Lazo believed it. And now he's paying the price. I mean, Lazo deleted his Facebook account, disposed of all his gear after, he returned to Norfolk from Washington. But they found him, charged him. But apparently, Lazo has some other problems because he is implicated in another sexual allegation involving an underage person. So he's troubled. But initially, Lazo pled not guilty to all the charges and he accepted the deal. The deal was to plead guilty to a lesser charge that carried a maximum sentence of 6 months in prison and a fine up to $5,000. So there's some fairness there. They could have thrown the book at Kenny Brian Lazo. Instead, they give him 45 days. He's got to pay $500. But it's sad because you look at what Trump, these people believed in Trump and look at what he did. I'm not trying to make fun of Lazo. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see his perspective and trying to tell you that these are the kind of innocent Americans who are compelled to do these outlandish things because they were controlled by Donald Trump. They believed him 100%. And of course, this is one of the lesser, the lesser charges that are out there. 45 days, $500. That's not like the other day, 5 years. Was it 5 years? No. Yeah, it was like 63 months. I mean, there's some serious time for some people because they believed in Donald Trump. And that should be a lesson for all of us. All right, so I kick off the show talking about the Luis Tambo man, the Filipino American. Asian Americans were involved. They were out there. So we take care of him. But it leads into a discussion about Liz Cheney. Because Liz Cheney is all about January 6th, and she's going to continue on the committee. I for one, I think she's doing a good job. I like Liz Cheney for what she's doing on the January 6th committee. But the problem with the January 6th committee is, well, I like that. The problem with Liz Cheney is her running for president or considering a run may not be the best thing. I mean, I've obsessed about it since she made the concession speech last week in Wyoming. And, she said, hey, look, I'm a Republican, you're a Democrat, we're independents. We got to work together. We have to make sure that Donald Trump never holds office again. On that single issue, I agree with her. It may be the only thing I agree with her. But it's enough to make her proposition kind of interesting. She wants us to join together. Will she run for president in the primary? Can Democrats switch over, vote Republican in the primary, and then defeat Trump that way? And, so there's a lot of people thinking about all these different schemes. And in the end, even though I'm enticed and I'm tantalized by Liz Cheney's idea, I'm not sure if it's such a great idea anymore. I mean, I'm never sure. I never went out and said, oh, I'm going to switch my registration and join in this strategy to defeat Trump. And I explained in my columns on ALDEF, Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, also usa.inquirer.net. Just put down my name. It's a Filipino paper. But now I'm even more convinced that maybe a Liz Cheney run isn't the best idea, because there's a new poll out that suggests a Liz Cheney run would hurt Biden more than Trump. It's a Yahoo News YouGov poll that says if Cheney were to run as an independent in 2024, she could actually swing voters to help Trump. The survey of 1,563 U.S. adults conducted between August 18th and 22nd. So this is pretty fresh poll. Immediately after Cheney lost last Tuesday, Wyoming House primary to a Trump-backed challenger by nearly 40 percentage points. It found that if the 2024 election were held today, and if it were a one-on-one rematch between President Biden and Trump, Biden would lead by 4 points among registered voters, 46 to 42, which essentially is kind of a deadlock, right? If you take the margin of error, very close. But Yahoo says in a three-way race with Cheney on the ballot as an independent, Trump would suddenly vault to an 8-point lead over Biden, 40 to 32. In that scenario, Cheney trails with just 11% of the vote. The problem for Biden is that nearly all of Cheney's votes come at his expense, and there are enough of them in theory to put Trump over the top. So the early polls, which Yahoo and YouGov have engaged in, suggest Liz Cheney running for president as an independent, bad idea. Maybe it's different if Liz Cheney runs as a Republican and challenges Trump as a Republican, forcing Republicans to defeat Trump in the primary or to force the nomination to go to the convention floor. And then you can have a knockdown, drag-out fight. No guarantee about what's going to happen, but maybe there's a never Trumper or someone out of nowhere who comes up and says, this is the best person to run against Joe Biden. This is assuming Joe Biden gets a nomination on the Democratic part. And then maybe Liz Cheney wins that way because Democrats vote Republican, assure Liz Cheney gets a shot at the convention and defeats Trump there. Now it's a different equation, right? All sorts of machinations here. But I would say, and I really have concluded this in my columns pretty much, that if Democrats vote for the best Democrats, it's always better. It's always better to vote for something than against something, right? If Democrats stick to their guns and say, we want Biden, we're going to, as the old saying goes, dance with the one who brung you. We got this far because of Democrats. I'm talking in general about Black, Indigenous people of color. If you vote for the best people and forget about the shenanigans of trying to do something that Liz Cheney has schemed up, we might be better off. Because the bottom line is, there are enough Democrats to defeat Donald Trump. Getting them to understand that these election results are real is another matter. But that's really the best solution. And you can support Liz Cheney by saying, yeah, we're in line with your vision that, yeah, Trump should not be an elected official. But maybe we should just stick to the way we've always done it. Democrats with Democrats, Republicans with the Republicans, and the independent swing voters knowing who they should vote for in a Trump versus anyone kind of race. So this poll doesn't necessarily throw cold water on Liz Cheney's hopes, but it does give us a sense of where things are now. And it may make people realize that maybe this isn't a Liz Cheney strategy, may not be the best way. All right, it's election day. Strange things happening here. In Florida, the Democratic nominee for governor is Charlie Crist. And I was wondering why I was getting all these Crist emails. Well, I mean, and also Crist, he was the governor. Oh, when he was a Republican. Oh, now he's a Democrat. Oh, it's too bad Nikki Fried, his Democratic opponent, is still a little green. She is the highest ranking Democrat, apparently, in statewide office. She's an ag commissioner. She's pro-abortion. She'll get the woman vote. But I'm not sure if Nikki Fried is going to have enough to upset Crist, who changes color from Republican to Democrat and says, give me Ron DeSantis. I don't know what's going to happen straight up, head on, Charlie Crist against DeSantis, or even if Nikki Fried. I don't think Nikki Fried has what it takes vote-wise. I'm sure ethically, in terms of her mental acumen, she could be a qualified candidate. I just don't think she has the votes to go after or to defeat Crist and then take on DeSantis. We'll see. It's election day in Florida. It's also election day in New York. If you're voting in New York, tough one. Carolyn Maloney she's pretty effective congresswoman for the state of New York. But most people know Gerald Nadler. I remember when I worked in Congress I was a press secretary, Gerald Nadler was there. He's an established figure, an established name, made even more so because his involvement in the impeachment hearings. He's a national name. I talked to some people I know who vote in New York, and they said that they were going Nadler. I think Nadler wins, but it means that one of them, between Maloney and Nadler, is going to go home. And it's too bad because Maloney has been fairly effective. So today's election day in, see, Oklahoma has a primary, Florida, New York. Watch for them. There's some other races in New York that are indicators of where things might go in the midterm, but those are the cases that have been highlighted. I wanted to mention Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul. I mean, I guess he's always going to be mentioned as, I mean, Nancy Pelosi can't help but be in the lead sentence there, right? Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi's husband, pleaded guilty to DUI causing injury in Napa County on Tuesday morning. So, what does it mean? It just means that an 82-year-old man is going to have to serve 5 days in jail, pay more than $6,000 in fines, and enroll in 3-month-long DUI classes. It's also an embarrassment to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, but she was far, this is not an alibi, she was far from the scene. She was heading her way to the East Coast. And it's just unfortunate because I think the most important thing is that Paul Pelosi pled out. He got probation for 3 years. He's going to serve 5 days. He'll enroll in all these DUI programs. He'll pay fines that altogether are about $6,000. He'll have some things that are tough, like he can't operate a vehicle with any amount of alcohol. And it says he can't operate a motor vehicle unless it's equipped with a functioning certified ignition device for 1 year. So there's restrictions like this, but it's just sad. If he were an ordinary person, it would not be made into a big deal. But here you see he's being treated just like any other 82-year-old man who is married to the Speaker of the House. By the way, he had a blood sample of 0.082%, and it's illegal to drive in California if you have a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or more. So he was 0.02% higher than he should have been. And, you know, it's just embarrassing. You're 82 years old. You're rich and successful. Your wife is rich and successful. I think it says something that he's going through this as just a normal private citizen, albeit at 82. You got to figure at 82 that there be some leniency, but you're married to the Speaker, no leniency at all. I don't think it affects Nancy Pelosi at all. I mean, in terms of her politics, but there will be people making hay about it. What you need to know, because Nancy Pelosi is the congresswoman for San Francisco. She's Speaker of the House, but she represents one of the most Asian American districts in the country. I think what she owes her constituents is to let them know the facts and let them know that nothing special, no special treatment appears to have been given to Paul Pelosi. A couple more things I want to get at, and I think it's important to talk about this. You know, I wasn't going to, but I think I will, you know, because on the national scene, Gavin Newsom is seen as this ultra liberal type guy, right? The liberals liberal, and a lot of people wonder, well, what's he going to do when he wants to run for president? He says he doesn't want to run for president. He wants to run for president. But how does he run for president if he seems too liberal for his own good? Being the leader of California, most liberal state in the union, right? Either fifth or sixth largest economy in the world. I mean, he's got the cred. He's governor, but he did something yesterday that indicates to me how he may be trying to prepare himself to look like not liberal Gavin Newsom, but moderate Gavin Newsom. He vetoed a bill that would allow pilot programs for safe injection sites. Now, what's a safe injection site? That's where if you're a drug user, you sign up, you go in, you get clean needles, you get to bring your drug. I guess you bring your own drugs and you shoot up, and it's a safe, controlled environment. You don't get rid of your needles on the ground, so it might infect or hurt someone else. It's something that they already do in places like New York. It's something that Democratic mayors in Oakland, LA, San Francisco have advocated. It passed the legislature, Democratic-controlled legislature. But here's Newsom, who ordinarily would just, it's never a rubber stamp, but he would be inclined to say yes on this, except if he wants to show the rest of the country that he's anti-drugs, that he's law and order, and that he's a tough guy and can stand down to his own Democrats and say, no, we're not going to do this quite yet. I think this is just a slowdown tactic, but while he does it, it makes him look like he's somewhat moderate rather than liberal, not allowing these free injection sites. The free injection sites, by the way, you can argue that they are a good deal because people die right now the way things are. And if there were free, safe injection sites, you wouldn't have the same number of deaths. It's a caring solution to a real problem. But I suppose with the veto that Newsom took yesterday, Gavin Newsom was just playing it safe politically. All right, I just want to finish off with one story on Twitter. This is the whistleblower on Twitter. The Washington Post reported this story, and I'm concerned because, look, maybe you're watching this show on Twitter at Emil Amok. They're doing all these revamps with audio, and Twitter is so far behind. And Elon Musk, right, was gonna buy it, then he pulled out. Now they're forcing him to buy it. Now he might have to buy it. So there's all this stuff going on, and it makes you wonder why it's all happening now, this whistleblower coming out. But this is a big deal. You got the former security chief claiming that Twitter hid egregious deficiencies in its security, lacked security, where hundreds of people had essentially the keys to the kingdom, and that things could go wrong and very important accounts would be subject to hacking because there are too many entrees. And this should be a concern. Now, there's a guy named Mudge who is a known hacker and the former head of security until he was fired earlier this year. Peter Zatko is his name. He's the complainant and the whistleblower who went to the Washington Post. And Zatko says, this is the Washington Post lead, Twitter executives deceived federal regulators and the company's own board of directors about extreme, egregious deficiencies in its defenses against hackers, as well as its meager efforts to fight spam, according to this whistleblower complaint from Zatko. Zatko has cred. He has cred inside and cred outside in the hacker community, known as Mudge. Zatko said that Twitter was unable to protect its 238 million daily users, including government agencies, heads of state, and other influential figures. The Post obtained the complaint that Zatko has made, and essentially that Twitter violated the terms of an 11-year-old settlement with the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, by falsely claiming that it had a solid security plan. They don't. Should you be concerned? Look, if something's coming out of Peter's, this guy Zatko, Mudge, I trust him. I saw him interviewed. CNN also had the story. They shared it with the Post. I believe Zatko. I believe whistleblowers. Now, he was asked a hard question, the coincidence with Elon Musk's, the muskitude of, goings on between will he or won't he buy Twitter? And now it looks like he might have to go along with it after pulling out. And maybe this is the kind of thing that might save Musk. So maybe it's like one tech guy, this guy Mudge or Zatko, giving a little boost to Musk, saying, yeah, why would you want to buy something that is so bereft of, security? I think it only makes me wonder about all the platforms. And, Twitter's not, it's holding steady. It's not really hip, but the thing is it's maturing. And it's not as hip as TikTok. People are going to TikTok. TikTok is, I think you can't do anything more than a minute on TikTok. Twitter, they've expanded the number of words because it's maturing as a utility that even the government, that high level sorts of entities rely on. I mean, they mentioned how Joe Biden's candidate, when he was a candidate, his account was hacked. So I don't know where this leads us, but it just says that now Jack Dorsey has been subpoenaed. People are scratching their heads about Twitter. Twitter already is in a little bit of a funk because it's been behind trying to keep up with the TikToks and with the video folks, with the Instagram Reels, because now suddenly social media is a place where people, they don't just type, they don't just text. On TikTok, they perform, they give speeches, you see videos, you see more than memes, you see actual people doing things, saying things. And we're always evolving. And underneath this evolution is, can we evolve and still have a degree of safety? Can we still have a degree of security? And I just remember what Zatko said on television when I saw him earlier today. He said, I want to do something important and something good for the people, something good for my country. He's practically sounding patriotic when he said, I got to blow the whistle on Twitter. Let's see where this goes. But I guess if you weren't already security conscious, you should be more so now. All right. So, there was a lot to talk about today. What can I say? I mean, I wasn't going to go very long, but now, in the Trump thing, I always usually like to check before I say goodbye. I like to check just to make sure that nothing big has happened as we before we go, because generally speaking, that's when things happen. Like 5 o'clock Eastern time, 2 p Pacific. In that hour, someone dumps something, and then you say, "Oh my God, did that happen just now?" But so far, aside from things happening in Ukraine over that nuclear power plant being held hostage, the top story still appears to be that Trump, it wasn't just 300 documents. The New York Times is reporting that Trump kept more than 700 pages of classified documents, according to a letter from the National Archives, which described the alarm as Justice Department officials realize, just how big a situation this really is. You're talking about security on Twitter. That's one thing. We have to worry about security within our own United States. The most top secret of documents. And when a guy who is no longer president could just, take a couple boxes and like walk out the door and then keep them for months in Mar-a-Lago locked up. Now, mind you, they've had discussions about got to get these back, got to get these back. He kept them. Why? And now we know they're not just 300 pages, but they're 700 pages. And I know there's discussion about release them all. No, Trump wants them all to be released because he knows that is the only way that he can probably get out of this. If he could say, look, how can I get a fair trial? All the information has been released. Don't buy that. The judge in this case is probably going to say, we're not going to release any more. We're going to redact the hell out of this document, out of the subpoena and the affidavit, because we don't want to screw up the prosecution. We don't want to screw up the case. Trump wants to screw up the case. He's Mr. Chaos. This is part of his plan. Don't buy it. Just understand you got 700 pages of classified documents. You've got all the facts there. Donald Trump is cornered. What can he say? Yeah, 700 documents I shouldn't have had. I got. He can't plea his way out of that one. He's like the Wallace Tambo guy. He's like Kenny Lazo. They got him. He's like Paul Pelosi. They got him. Only what they got, the former president of the United States, F. POTUS, is far worse than anything the Wallace Tambo man did. Anything worse than Paul Pelosi did. Anything worse than... These are the top secrets of the United States that Donald Trump had. And what, some Trump supporter is trying to say, oh, he was probably trying to write a memoir. Oh, yeah. Whenever you want to write a memoir from top secret documents, yeah, that's a bona fide bestseller. No. You don't put top secrets in a bestseller to write a memoir. Just to jog the memory. No. Donald Trump is running out of alibis. And all the more reason to support efforts. You don't have to vote with Liz Cheney, but you just got to support her idea, her effort that F. POTUS should not be a recidivist president and have a second shot in 2024. And that's it for today. Hey, like I said, I've been cleaning out my office. I dare say I have 5, maybe 6 years of newspaper. newspapers. I mean, it's not like I just have like this old vintage newspaper and I'm going to make vintage paper mache puppets or something. I actually read these things. And I told you, like, all right, this is just a paper from, this is from February 25th this year, right? Or I mean, I keep these things for reference because this is, in fact, the first draft of history. And I want to feel history in my, it becomes history as it sits collecting dust in my office. Offices for, I think I got a paper that says Obama has just been elected president. That would be like 2008. That's only 14 years. Oh my God. 14 years. Okay. So I have a newspaper addiction, but I am doing what I can. I'm going on methadone. The methadone equivalent of newspaper addiction is to subscribe digital only. And I was doing well. I fell off the wagon today unintentionally because the Wall Street Journal came to my door. You know, they don't usually come to my door, but I must have said start it up on the 23rd. There it was. And I'm going to call them up and say, you got us. I'm doing well. I'm doing well on the methadone digital version. Please. Anyway, I find that what is often helpful as I deal with my addiction is meditation. Yeah, and regular listeners of the show know that that's one of the things I do. We talk about meditation and doing it and how it's helpful. Perhaps the most helpful, loving kindness. Oh, you mean to others, Emil? Yeah, toward others? Well, yeah, but, you know, brother, sister. I mean, yeah, but it starts with love for yourself. Self-love. But it's not like, you know, college freshman self-love. It's more like you begin by showing love to others. And guess what happens? It comes back to you. And that's where the self-love comes in. So think about that. And remember these thoughts. As I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Thanks for joining us. Back again tomorrow. Till then, Emil Guillermo here. Mahal